Well, hey, Janelle.
Well, hey, Marnie, how are you? I think you're just down the hall from me, right?
I am just down the hall from you, but we decided to do this episode of all things AARP North Dakota from our offices, so it'll be easier to pull in our super exciting guests, which I'm really, really excited to listen to you talk to these folks and to listen to what they have to say about the projects.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here for this episode of AARP, or all things AARP. You know, most of you know me from AARP, from the advocacy world, but we're doing these twice a month to really talk to you about things that are going on in your community, a little bit about advocacy, and then, you know, there's always a special add-on at the end. But as Marnie said, you know, we're excited about our two guests that we have on today. I think, Marnie, it combines a few things that you and I love, right? Being out in local communities and food. So
yeah, food and moving our bodies too, because one of these is out of Grand Forks with a cool bike share conversation. Another is a grocery store in a small town, and just lots to say. And so I'm going to leave. I'm going to let Janelle handle this. I'm going to get in the background so that you'll know who you're talking to and can see all the pictures and everything. And we are going to go from there in just a second here as we move into this next segment. So Janelle, I'll be lining it all up here and let you go.
Thanks, Marnie. So, you know, as Marnie mentioned, you know, this AARP, all things AARP, we really break these into segments. And today we're going to combine two of our segments together. We're really excited. Last week, we announced the 2023 Challenge Grantees, which really brings together our communities in work that we do both for advocacy work, but also we want to make communities more livable for people of all ages. And these grants are super exciting. It helps communities really make their communities better. It keeps people in the community. It helps them be part of it to figure out how can you make things more livable and creating really tangible improvements that jumpstart long-term change. So since 2017, AARP has been awarding community challenge grants in North Dakota alone. 25 grants totaling almost $250,000 have been awarded to nonprofit organizations in the state. And really the essence of community challenge grants is to create quick action projects, things that help communities make public spaces more accessible, looking at transportation, housing. How do we create more equitable, inclusive communities where people can live if they're 0 up to the age of 50 and older. We really want to create those projects. And so last week we announced that we awarded 6 organizations in North Dakota $67,000. And this was the largest group of grantees to date, not only in our state, but also across the country. So $3.6 million were awarded to 310 organizations. So this is a real treat for us. I'm excited to have 2 guests with me today talking about 2 of the grants that were awarded in North Dakota. So I'm pleased to welcome Jill and Megan on screen with me, who will talk about their projects that were funded. So I'll give you both a quick opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organizations that you're with, and then we'll dive into the projects. So go ahead, Megan.
Thank you so much, Janelle, for having me. My name is Megan, and I am the Executive Director of Strengthen ND. I am a born and raised North Dakotan, grew up outside of a very small town, and Strengthen ND is all about supporting rural communities to exercise their self-agency and to be the best community that they want to be. And we had the wonderful opportunity of partnering with the Munich Area Development Corporation with their project with their local grocery store to understand how we might transition as operations to a self-service grocery model in order to serve more people in the community, to increase the amount of local and fresh available food that they could access, as well as to look at how the grocery store model can maintain or be more viable well into the future.
You know, that's really exciting, Megan, and we'll talk more about that, because I know that we're really excited about this self-service grocery store. Jill, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in Grand Forks? I know we talk about rural North Dakota, but we're funding a project also in Grand Forks. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Of course. Again, thanks for having me on the show today, Janelle. I'm Jill Proctor, the President and CEO of the Downtown Development Association. Our focus is on the neighborhood of downtown, but we realize the impact that we have across the entire community. So we oversee a lot of different activities, making sure that this neighborhood is multi-generational. We know that young and our aging population enjoy being down here, making sure it's a livable, accessible community for people to enjoy. So we host several events throughout the year, but the one I think that most people aren't aware of is the Grand Rides Bike Share program that we oversee. We started that program in 2020 when the original company that was having the Grand Rides Bike Share in Grand Forks didn't make it out of COVID, and it seemed like a logical project for us to take on. And so we've been really excited to grow and strengthen that program over the last few years. So that's just a little bit of the things that we do, along with advocating for our downtown businesses and residents, of course.
That's great, Jill. I think having both of you on really shows the diversity of projects that we fund in North Dakota, but just that, it just doesn't have to be, either something transportation or housing. There are really, we look at so many options that can help communities, maintain and sustain. So Megan, you talked about self-service grocery stores. So where did this idea come up with, that you worked with the Munich area corporation, and what is a self-service grocery store?
Yeah, so we have been so lucky and grateful for the opportunity to be engaged up in the Munich area for the last several years, trying to understand how we plan for economic recovery and resilience with North Central Planning Council. And through that work, we've been linked with Steven Zimmer, who is the leader of the Munich Area Development Corporation, and had so many conversations around rural grocery stores. Certainly, many people can attest to how challenging it can be to find adequate workforce in rural communities to potentially work in a grocery store, how it can be challenging to order enough produce and keep it on the shelf long enough for folks to actually be able to consume it. The overall pricing of groceries in rural places can be challenging as well. So through those continued conversations and surveys from the community, we decided to look at what other models might be most effective. The grocery store originally, when it was established, was a for-profit grocery store and had since navigated to be a nonprofit grocery store, but we're still kind of encountering some of those similar challenges. So we looked at what are other towns doing across the state, or not even across the state, across the upper Midwest that's working. And we stumbled upon a self-service grocery store in Evansville, Minnesota. We called them several times, had some great conversations, and said, how are you actually doing this? And is it working? So a self-service grocery store is a place where people can go in and purchase their groceries really at any time. You pay a small nominal fee to get a key fob so that you can go into the grocery store. There's a mechanism where you can ring up your own groceries, including produce. And then there's, some obvious security cameras to make sure that the groceries remain secure and that any theft might be mitigated. And it really eliminates the need for larger investments in staffing and can open up more opportunities for people to actually shop at the grocery store, which especially when we are thinking about working or providing services for seniors who might not have access to transportation that aligns with the grocery store's hours of maybe 10 to 6 is incredibly important. So we are incredibly excited to begin purchasing the technology to start that conversion and really working with the community to understand what they might need from that grocery store, what type of training they might need to be able to access or feel comfortable ringing up their own groceries, and really how we can make this an anchor for the community and for the region in terms of distribution of food.
Oh, that's really exciting. I think so much of what we do has become really automated and we expect it to be there, when we need it. And food is such an important piece, especially in rural communities. Often when grocery stores leave communities, it's really have been the heart and it really provides, that needed access, not just for food, but for communities. So I think what a fantastic way to bridge those two together. And I know, with Munich being such a small community, you really could shine a light on that this is possible, that you don't have to lose your grocery store. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, and especially when we're thinking about these small places that are agriculturally dependent, and you think about harvest time, and you think about the availability of some. We had many conversations around bachelors that live in the area who sometimes would just forego meals because there wasn't a local cafe or place where they could readily access some food to go out into the field. So this will really eliminate some of those access issues and just make it a place where people can age within their own homes and relieve some of that burden of transportation to larger communities to purchase those groceries. And then by driving more traffic, hopefully make the costs of those groceries and the types of groceries, the quality of them, be able to increase that quality while decreasing that cost.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it could address a number of issues that we face in the state. Obviously, workforce issues is a number one thing that we hear all the time about. This could be a way to keep your store alive and still keep, you know, healthy, fresh food available to the residents that live there. So really, this is so fantastic, Megan. We can't wait to hear, you know, how you and Steve really get this propped up, and maybe we'll have you on later in the year. You can tell us, maybe show us some video, because I think it could really highlight such a great way to keep communities alive. So Jill, on the flip side, you're talking about transportation. I mean, we know food access is important, but we also know really promoting healthy living by alternative options for transportation. So you mentioned a little bit about your bike share program, but why did we fund you to, what are you doing to expand that bike share program in Grand Forks?
It's a great question. Megan, first of all, I'm inspired by what you guys are doing. It was really cool to hear about it. And I think we need to bring some bikes there to make that connectivity even better. So I'm just going to throw that out there. So with our bike share program, when we took it over, our goal was to make it a place where anybody could access the bikes. We knew that there was going to be some funding restraints around that, and we knew that to have a functioning typical bike share program, that there was a cost for usage. And so over the last few years, we've really taken a look at what is our role in creating opportunities throughout our community, and how can we make them inclusive. And we kind of have evolved our bike share program over the last few years. It started off where each bike was kind of tied to a specific dock, and you had to start there and end there. Last year, we made a significant investment with our partners to GPS all the bikes and change the locking system. And that is when we really saw a change from people just using our bikes for recreation to more mobility and accessibility elements. We're seeing them go to grocery stores. We're seeing them go to job sites. We're seeing them on and off our University of North Dakota campus, and also Northland Community Technical College campus. So there's a lot of students that are using those bikes. And then the next element was, we don't want to have a cost for them. We want them to be free. We don't want that to be a barrier for anybody to either have enjoyed it recreationally or to use it as a means of transportation. So last year we made all of our bike rentals free as well. So then as we looked kind of during our off season, we're always looking to improve the different programs that we focus on. And we always look at universal design in everything that we do, whether it's improving public spaces, how somebody can access a storefront downtown, what it looks like to navigate around our events. And we want to make sure that there's no obstacles or barriers for anybody that wants to participate in what we're doing. So looking at universal design and making sure that our bike share program too met those kind of elements and expectations. So the next logical step for us was to integrate some different bike options. Not everybody can get on a typical bike and take it for a ride. And so we talked to some of our aging population and asked, like, what kind of bikes would you like to see? And we had an overwhelming response for e-bikes. They want to get out on our greenway, which the city of Grand Forks, East Grand Forks, is incredibly blessed after the flood of 1997, where we have miles and miles of beautiful green space that flow along the river and all throughout both communities. And our seniors are wanting to get on that bike path, and they want to go 4 or 5 miles, but maybe operating a typical bike doesn't allow them to do that, or the e-bike with that little bit of assist allows them to engage in ways that they hadn't before. And then we also took a look at what about people in our community that have different mobility issues? Like, how are they able to get on a bike, maybe with a spouse or a friend, and then ride alongside them, where a bike typically wouldn't be accessible that would meet their needs. So that's where we came up with the concept of integrating some adaptive bikes. So we're really excited to introduce what is a hand crank bike. That will be one of the 2 adaptive bikes that we'll integrate into the program. So this is a trike where it is operated by your arms. You pedal it like with your hands instead of with your feet. And then we'll also do a trike that will operate more like a pedal bike, but for people that maybe have some balance concerns or different mobility issues in that regard, that will meet that need as well.
Wow, Jill, that's pretty cool. I think about North Dakotans being somewhat of creatures of habit, right? And I think what you're showing is that, you know, bikes aren't just for recreation, that they can really get you, like you mentioned, to school, to work, you know, to appointments, to the grocery store. And I think by adding these, have you gotten some really good feedback on it, or do people in Grand Forks know that you're adding these 2 new options yet?
We have gotten some really great feedback, especially from maybe professionals that work in these fields. We did reach out during this whole process, and especially recently when we found out the incredible news that we were awarded. What is the best option? And we know that this is a very specific type of equipment for some people, but what type can we use that would be used the most? And we've gotten an overwhelming response for advocates that work directly with people addressing accessibility. I always tell this story about my daughter-in-law's dad was in a wheelchair, and every time that we go around and do anything at all, I always think about, what is his experience like in this? So it's been really fun to bring something in that other people might not have been able to access before.
That's great, Jill. And you know, Megan and Jill, you really highlight the importance of these grants, that they're really ideas that the community have brought to you, and it really meets the needs. And that's what's so great about community challenge grants. They're adaptive. They're really, you know, aimed at starting with just a small amount of money, a great tangible project, but look, you know, what it can do and open doors for both Munich as well as Grand Forks into the future. So anything else that either of you'd like to add about your projects or about your future vision for either Munich or Grand Forks?
I think for the project that we are partnering with the Munich Area Development Corporation on, the opportunity to receive dollars from AARP to really test and see if this model will work in rural North Dakota, because rural North Dakota is very different from rural Minnesota. And the excitement that is there to potentially spread this model to other communities in a way that is accessible for their residents, in a way that hopefully is cost effective, and we can further document the lessons learned of maybe try this or try that, or get this group involved. We're just so excited for the ripple effects that will come from this project, and that will come because of AARP's belief and investment in rural communities, and ensuring that there are places that seniors can continue to live and can continue to thrive.
I like you said it beautifully, Megan. Like when you think about like our bike share program in particular, who else out there would this project have aligned so well with? When you talk about different populations of people in our community and what we're able to do and the ripple effect of it. Like, we do believe that bike share programs across the country could look at this bike share program as a model to be more inclusive of the different types of bodies that are in their community.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait to hear how the projects go, and we'll be excited to come up in that area in September, and maybe we get some video and some photos of the projects, but please stay in touch. We can't wait to hear how the projects turn out. And thank you again both so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, Marnie, we're pivoting now to our last little segment. As you all know, that we always have a little bit of an add-on, and what we're here today, you know, most of these projects, the community challenge grants, really come from the ground up and are really inspired by volunteers that identify a need in the community. And if you know a volunteer in your community, we're really looking for more Andrus Award community service nominations. So it's a volunteer recognition recognition award that we have. Nominees have to be 50 and older. Their achievements and accomplishments, are really based on their volunteer work in your community. Not only do they get recognized by receiving the Andrus Award, but there's $1,000 that will be put towards a service project of their choice. So in 2022, we awarded the Andrus Award to Michael Matson, and he does everything from writing grants to flipping burgers in Garrison. Cindy Roholt was our award recipient in 2021, and she's very active in lifting up the LGBTQ voices in the Fargo area. So if you know a volunteer in your community that you think is deserving of this award, please go to aarp.org/Andrus to learn more and to nominate a great volunteer in your community. So with that, we're going to pivot. There's Marnie again. She's back. So she's not only does the production, but she does like to show her face periodically on our videos. So good to see you again, Marnie.
Yes. Oh, that was so interesting to hear from Megan and to hear from Jill. Those projects just make me feel great about working for AARP, and the work that we're doing is so exciting, and we love telling you about it. And so we'll have another episode of All Things AARP North Dakota coming up July 27th, because we do this the second and fourth Thursdays, as Janelle well knows, but we want everyone to know. Next time, I think we're going to talk about our grandparenting class we have come up. I am not yet a grandparent. I hope I won't be for a while. Those boys, they're too young. But we all know that parenting has changed. The things you do, all of the tech, all of the stuff. And if you want to be a great grandparent, it's good to know what's changed so you can go in there and see what's new and be ready to help out. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We've got a class on August 2nd with Burley Public Health, and so we'll talk to them as a little preview of that class, and it's online, so it's statewide. So we're looking forward to talking about that July 27th.
Yeah, I know grandparents are an important part of my kids' lives. I know I couldn't do what I do without the help of our grandparents, and they are really so instrumental in my kids' lives in helping them not only get to the things that they do, but also just really encouraging them and promoting them to be good kids and good future citizens in North Dakota. So I'm excited to hear about it. But Marnie, it's been great visiting with you. We're going to see people back here on July 27th.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.